Beginnings are a tricky aspect to handle in games. If you fail to hold your player's interest, there's no guarantee you'll get it back. Pacing is critical. You want to establish what your game is and answer some questions. What sort of mechanics does it have? What sort of tone and story are we going to experience? What's the music like? And so on. The prologue of Kingdom Hearts 2 does an imperfect job of answering these questions. And if anything, it feels disconnected from what the game seems to be going for. At least for a good while. It has just one area, focuses on a completely different main character who isn't Sora, and has some significant pacing problems. It is also a beautiful piece of storytelling, which shows the narrative at its absolute best, and gave me one of my new favorite characters, with Roxas. Let's discuss. Just a heads up. This video will be discussing Roxas, and by a lesser extent Nobodies in general, within Kingdom Hearts 2 specifically. I have not played, or, well, watched 358 Days Over 2, or any further entries at the time of writing. Do keep this in mind, as my critique in a vacuum may not necessarily apply anymore with context of later games. With the preamble out of the way, let's dive right in. As explained before, we play as Roxas this time, not Sora, and we are reintroduced to Twilight Town, previously shown in Chain of Memories. We see this kid's day-to-day life as he and his friends struggle to figure out how to spend their summer. All seems well, but little by little, cracks start to form in his reality. His photos are taken, his money stolen by men in black, the world around him freezes multiple times, and eventually his own friends are incapable of noticing his presence. And he must come to terms with the situation he's in. Said situation is explained by Diz, who informs him of his status as a nobody. When Sora briefly became a Heartless, Roxas was born from his body. Diz needs Sora to defeat Organization 13, but he's in stasis at that moment, and can only be fully restored if Roxas sacrifices himself to become one with Sora. Roxas was never supposed to exist, and his very personhood is seen as negligible to those around him, an obstacle even, often referred to as an it. This kid, who just wanted to spend the remains of his vacation with his friends, must give up his life for a man who doesn't even care enough about him to view him as anything less than an obstacle. And he doesn't get a choice in the matter. It's forced onto him. Sora doesn't even know he exists after waking up. And when the two merge, his friends have vague recollections of who Roxas was, but not much beyond. Nobodies are a major focus of this narrative. Most major antagonists are a member of this group, and their unique existence is as fascinating as it is tragic. It posits interesting questions. What does it mean to be someone's shadow? What does it mean for your very existence to be on the borderline? This question was previously posited by Naminé in Chain of Memories, and only makes her story all the more tragic as she's a husk of the person the gang actually care about. Now, if we left it here, we'd have a surprisingly somber but well-executed narrative. However, we're far from done. Just before our confrontation with the organization, stands before us an opponent in Sora's heart. A fragment of Roxas still remains. He must be confronted once and for all, and will not go down without a fight. "My friends are my power" is one of the most iconic lines in the series. It's Kingdom Hearts' ethos. Sora isn't special because he's smart or strong or the only one who can use the Keyblade. What makes Sora special is his ability to form bonds with people. It's those very bonds that drive him. Sora has spent these past 3 games looking for and hoping to rescue his friends. He'll do everything for those he loves, which brings out his immense potential. Then, let me ask you something. What happens if Sora is deprived of those friends? What happens if he's left with no one and no reason to continue? What remains is fear, anger, and the desperation to survive. Roxas outpaces and outclasses Sora in every way despite having far less experience. He fought Riku before this point in such a state, and guess what? He lost. If he focused solely on power, Sora would surpass most of those around him. But what use is strength if it's purposeless? It's vapid and empty. My friends are my power. I wasn't exaggerating about his skill. This fight is difficult. Absurdly so. And that's why I love it so much. Roxas is clinging desperately onto this second chance at life, and he's using everything he can just to manage. It's a proper test, which will demand the very best of the player, and yet its music is somber. Neither of you want this fight to happen, but it's what must be done. Ultimately, the pair are able to consolidate with one another. Sora and Roxas can coexist with each other. There is a place for both within the same being. This whole arc strikes a chord with me. I was, and still am, a fairly insecure person. I've worked with peers who seem straight up better than me in every way I considered significant. As grim as this sounds, I wonder to myself about my purpose if they could so easily take my place. I progressed greatly beyond such a line of thinking, but it's for this reason I empathize with Roxas as much as I do. Furthermore, the feeling of being torn on yourself is one I'm intimately familiar with. This notion of different parts of yourself wanting radically different and even opposing things. At times, I feel so much dissociation from this other self that they feel like another person entirely. I know that sooner or later the two of us are going to have to consolidate, and as scary as that seems, I know it can be done, and I'll be better off for it. That's why Roxas and his story arc are so important to me. Thank you for watching.